Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Doc G's Wine and Spirits Review. Obviously, you can see here by my friend on the table and the wonderful tulips here that we are just about ready to celebrate Easter. It's a great time of the year, great time for all of us to see and reconnect with friends and family. And it's also, lo and behold, a good chance to talk about wine. What isn't a good chance to talk about wine? So while we do that, let me get myself warmed up here. We're going to start off with a little celebration for this special occasion, that Easter and Passover, for those of you that celebrate that way. What I'm going to do tonight, instead of really giving you a wine recommendation specifically for each different wine that you might have, my intent is to give you a chance to find some great wines that will pair with the gamut of food that represents Easter. Because Easter is a very food versatile holiday, and when you have a food, wonderful sound. And when you have a food versatile holiday, you certainly want to be able to have a versatile lineup of wines if you're so inclined to have them to enjoy with your food. So this happens to be one of them. This is just a bubbly that I have here in the basement. This one comes from the Finger Lakes, from the Great Western Winery, one of the oldest wineries in the United States. So with that, cheers and welcome to our beginning of the Easter weekend celebration. That's a good way to get it started. So what I'd like to do really is keep this very simple. I'd like to try to give you, I have to my left here, I have 6 or 7 different wines. And the reason that I want to do that is that Easter can present you with so many food choices it actually can boggle the mind. Obviously, if you're more traditional, you're looking at an Easter ham. Some people like to do a turkey. Some people do a chicken. Lamb is very popular during the Easter season. So, and obviously a whole range of side dishes and foods. And if you're vegetarian, there are many different things that you could have on your table. So what I'd like to do for you as you begin your wine search, if you do that for Easter, is to give you just a few general guidelines about what I think are the most versatile wines that you can put on your table so that everyone is happy with what they pour in their glass for Easter. I can't imagine that no matter what you have, you know what, you know me, I'll just say it, if you want to pair whatever with whatever, you are free to do that. However, I'm going to try to give your palate a chance to really enjoy some good combinations. So what I have lined up for you here is a sparkling, and this one too, you go white or rosé. I have some whites that I want to suggest. I have a rosé, of course, and I have 2 reds, believe it or not, depending on what your food choices are. I mean, again, you can go from ham to poultry, duck, chicken, turkey. You can go to meats, lamb. Some people have pot roast or whatever for Easter. It just really depends on what your family's customs are and what your palate really likes for the Easter holiday. Some people make quiches. Some people go out for dinner. So this might not even be applicable. Maybe I can help you pick out a good wine at a restaurant if you so choose. But the one thing I will not do is I'm not going to do an expose here on pairing wine with candy. That might be for another time. It's not for Easter. So I'd like to start out, as I always do, if I'm thinking of, you know, the party atmosphere with Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and you've got Saturday, and then you've got Easter Sunday, and then even Easter Monday, which probably is not a drinking day, but at any rate, there's a wide range of opportunities for you to have the chance to have a good meal with your friends, with your family, go out to dinner, like I said. So you're going to probably have some appetizers around, and you can also pair these bubbly with your food. So the first recommendation I have, and you don't have to get this one. This happens to be a French Brut Rosé sparkling wine. It's not champagne. It doesn't say champagne on the bottle if you've been following me. But it is an example. Again, remember, we're trying to pair wines that are versatile enough to go with just about everything that you may put on the table. And I would dare say that this rosé sparkling could cover a lot of things. You could have it with a meal, with your appetizers. You could even have it with light meats. You might want to keep this away from lamb, but you could probably do it. It's not gonna, you're not gonna like spit it out. So this one, among all of these others, can really be interchanged and moved around. Again, it's gonna be very traditional in terms of pairings. I'm gonna recommend certain whites for certain things that you might have, and this rosé sparkling is one. So that's number one. If you are interested in having a good, versatile sparkling for your Easter holiday, I highly recommend you go get yourself a rosé sparkling. It doesn't have to be French. There's some good American sparkling rosés. There's some good French ones. There are some good sparkling rosés from all the major wine regions in the world. So I would highly recommend that you add this to your repertoire. And if you don't like the rosé, then go with what I'm starting here with. Go with and get yourself just a nice sparkling. It'll go well with just about everything except maybe the red kind of meats and the maybe if you have goose, it might even still go with that. So, or duck, depending on how you make it. But it'll go with ham, and it'll go with all of those things that are traditionally the Easter season kind of meals. So with that, let's move that one off to the side here. And now let's start with whites as you progress through your drinking, if you're going to have multiple wines on the table. I have two wines that I think are emblematic of what you might want to have on your table for Easter. I would be remiss if I did not say to you, give a Riesling a try. Riesling is a perfect pairing for a lot of food. It is especially tasty with the salt and the spice that you might have on a ham. Now everybody prepares their ham a little bit differently, but I can tell you that this Riesling, I happen to have one here from the Finger Lakes because that's where I really get most of my Riesling. But if you go in, and I would suggest a dry Riesling, don't get yourself a sweet one. And remember, if I could have interaction with you here, I'd ask you an audience question. How do you determine whether a Riesling is sweet, semi-dry, or it is dry? Well, you look at the back of the bottle, and this one, or wherever they happen to have it, here, this is 12.5% alcohol. That means that's a dry Riesling. It'll still have that Riesling nose, the Riesling crispness, the Riesling acidity, and it will go wonderfully with a ham. It will go wonderfully, frankly, with turkey. If you happen to have a turkey, if you happen to do a seafood Easter, it would go well there. Maybe some shrimp. I would save shrimp maybe for something else. Not that you couldn't do this, but this really would be a nice pairing for a ham. Now, the second wine that I would recommend specifically, and again, not a brand, but I would recommend this is a Vouvray. Vouvray is a French wine region, but the grape that goes into Vouvray it's from the Loire Valley in France, around Paris. It is the Chenin Blanc grape. So if you want to try, and it's really the grape that you're talking about, the Chenin Blanc grape does well. There are places in California that you can get it. I am confident that here in Pennsylvania, where most of you are from, for those of you that shop elsewhere, you can get Chenin Blanc in any good wine shop. It does not have to be Vouvray. If you can find a Vouvray, they're sublime. They're fantastic. And the reason that I like Chenin Blanc is the Chenin Blanc is very crisp, very minerally. It's a palate that's going to not overwhelm your food, but it's going to be a great accompaniment to your lighter fare. It'll go great with chicken. It'll definitely go great with ham. It would go great with, I would not move this up to the red wine foods, but this is something that you would really be not not sorry to try. These are dry. You can find them semi-dry, but the Vouvray or Chenin Blanc that you want to get for Easter should be one that is dry. So those are the whites. Now you're saying, well, can you do other wines? Of course you can. I could Easter food. I was thinking about this chat I wanted to have with you today. I'm thinking, how do I narrow this down? Well, you can pretty much pull any white wine off the shelf, and you're probably not going to go wrong. If you're a big Chardonnay fan, substitute the Chardonnay for the Chenin Blanc. Just try to find yourself an unoaked one. I wouldn't go too oaky for the foods at Easter. If you don't like Riesling, pull out a Gewürztraminer. If you don't like any of those, nice crisp Italian Pinot Grigio. Well, they're a little bit more full body, but they're still crisp and have a nice acid to them. The key is for Easter is, again, you're going to have some fat content in your food. You would like a little acid to help you with that. So those are the two whites that I'm recommending. Again, you can open the playbook here for Easter in terms of the kind of food that you would have. So I'm telling you, go have fun. Go find yourself some good Easter whites. So let's move those aside. And we're going to go to the rosé category. Now, we have two rosés. One of them happened to be a bubble. I'm doing two of each color. So let's tell you, you've had enough of me telling you about rosé wines. They seem to find their way into whatever presentation, whatever region, whatever country I'm doing. And that's because I probably have about 3 cases of rosé in my wine cellar of all different types. I have Provence style, I have Cab Franc rosé, I have Pinot Noir rosé, I have rosé of Sangiovese. I told you, any red grape can be made into a rosé, and there's even some rosés that add some white grapes. Sometimes, like in Italy, they'll add some Vermentino to the Italian rosés. So, this is one of our favorites. I probably featured this one on our rosé spot almost a year ago. We're coming up on a year, gang. We're going to have a celebration soon. But the rosé is going to be, you cannot miss with a rosé on Easter. When you think of the ham, when you think of the vegetables that you're going to have, even the potatoes, so you have a quiche with some cheese. If you're going to have even chicken, turkey, I mean, you've heard me say it, rosé is one of the most versatile wines for food pairings that you can really have out there on the market. So this one happens to be Olema, one that we buy at Total Wine. I cannot get this one in PA, but I'll give PA its props. The PA wine and liquor stores have some really good rosé selections anymore. They have a wine called Minuti I could recommend. They have the Maison Numero 9, which is a very popular rosé right now. They have some other rosés that are just, they're from all over the planet, basically. So you can get California rosé, you can try Pinot Noir rosé. Rosé is just going to go well with just about anything. You could put it with lamb. I think it'll get lost if you have lamb. I tend not to put rosé with my more protein-rich foods like beef and lamb and bison and things like that. You tend to want to go more toward reds. So there's already, we're only halfway through this, and I already have given you at least a dozen different wine recommendations that are different wine types that you could use to pair for your Easter holiday. And I would say whenever your big meal is, it doesn't have to just be Sunday. You're going to be eating a lot, so you're going to need a supply of wine. So go out and find some. Get yourself stocked up for the Easter holiday, because you're probably going to have a crowd. If you don't have a crowd, you're probably going to see somebody and be hanging out. I hope you are. Hope you're not spending Easter alone. And if you are, just buy yourself 1 or 2 bottles and all will be well. So with that said, let's move from the rosé, and we'll end our presentation, well, at least the wine part of it. We'll end our presentation with the reds that I want to recommend to you. Now, when you think of reds, don't think that just because it's Easter, you probably don't want to put a red with a ham. There are probably some really light ones. Pinot Noir, you might get away with it. I think the ham will tend to get lost, and the wine will kind of overwhelm. You don't see that much, but the wine will overwhelm the food rather than the food overwhelming the wine. So I have two reds here that I would recommend to you if you're going to be thinking about food that tends to be more of red wine style food. You know, like your lamb, like if you have duck, some people have duck. If you have some kind of roast beef, prime rib, whatever it is that you do. Everybody's Easter dinner and Easter desires as far as food are a little bit different. So I'm trying to give you, again, a nice array of wines. So I could not offer a red wine more versatile for Easter than Pinot Noir. And that's what we have here. I featured this one when we did our Pinot Noir spot. This one happens to be from the Willamette Valley. This is an Oregonian Pinot Noir. And there are some great Pinot Noirs coming out of Oregon. Again, price point is whatever you want to spend. You can drop some money on a good Pinot. You don't have to, but I do think once you get to 15 and up, you're going to get a better Pinot Noir for your money. So this one is a 2019, as I said. And then the other wine that I would recommend, and this is the biggest one that I would recommend, and it's a red blend. And it's one from a winery that we visited. I told you about my visit to California. It's 13 years ago now. I can't believe it. Time is really flying. So when we were in California, we had a chance to go to the Klein Winery. And I think I actually tried this one out there at the time. It's a wine called Cashmere Red Blend. Just listen to that. Cashmere Red Blend. It can't possibly be bad. And it's not going to break the bank. I just found this one again down at Total Wine when I took a trip recently down to my favorite spot in the state of Delaware. So this Cashmere Red Blend is the one that I would recommend if you're going to get into the beef or lamb or the big red kind of meats for the holiday, or if you just happen to like red wine. And it's a blend. And the reason that I'm suggesting a blend is because it really it gives you, again, more flexibility rather than less. Now this is a GSM blend, and GSM stands for Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre, and that's exactly what this is. It is a 2019 Cashmere Red Blend. This is a big one, 14% alcohol by volume. So that one's going to make your face a little warm when you have a sip of it. So I would highly recommend, if you don't want a GSM, get yourself, you can get away with a Cabernet if you're going to have, lamb. You can have a Sangiovese. There's great Italian reds with all of these selections. I'm going to say it with the reds. If I left a grape out here today, it's not because it doesn't fit. It's because I want to be able to keep this around 20 minutes and not have you listening to a litany of different red wines that'll go great with Easter, because the list, quite frankly, it's not infinite, but it certainly shouldn't be limited to just these two wines. But they do give you a nice versatility in terms of different grapes. If I had one more that I would throw on the table to recommend to you, it would be a Bordeaux blend. And again, Bordeaux's can get pricey, but you can find good Bordeaux's around the $15, $20 price point, because they have Cabernet Sauvignon for the most part. They'll have some Merlot, and they'll have some Cab Franc. All great food wines. And especially with the blends, Bordeaux's are not big and brooding red wines that are going to kill your palate. They would be perfect for lamb. As a matter of fact, one of the great traditional pairings with lamb is either a Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre blend, also known as Rhone blends, or a Bordeaux blend of the three grapes I just mentioned, Cab Sauv, Merlot, and Cab Franc. So, there you have it. I would, if you don't really feel like getting a lot of wine, at least go out and get yourself a bottle of sparkling. So, until we meet again, and just to give you a little preview, there's a very important celebration going on right now in the country of Spain. I've been there a couple times, and I'll talk more about that in our next segment. It's called La Semana Santa. And there are some of you out there in this group, I know at least one of you, who has been in Spain with me, two of you actually, have been in Spain with me. Actually, it's three. I have to be careful here that I do not omit anyone that has been to Spain with me during Holy Week. So I'm looking forward to doing that spot with you. That's what's coming up next. So until then, please have a safe and wonderful holiday weekend with your friends, with your family. Give them a hug. Try to stay safe. And most importantly, enjoy your Easter. Happy Easter, friends, and we'll see you next time.